Good afternoon, YouTubers. Welcome back in to another edition of Astros Recap. David Artis here. Once again, here to break things down for you. Not my usual time, not my usual day, obviously. It's 3:33 p.m. April 2nd, so it's actually Monday. I got caught up last night. Was doing things knowing that this was going to be a long podcast. Didn't really have time last night. Those of you that actually regularly watch my podcasts know that usually I get on between 10:30, 11:30 at night. I usually sometimes roll into the midnight hours. So knowing that this podcast is going to be long, a lot to talk about. Only 6 games, obviously. That's about right each week. But trade deadline will be one of the things I talk about this week. Obviously, the Astros go 3-3. Taking 2 of 3 in Seattle, losing 2 of 3 in San Francisco. So we'll get to those games, obviously. I'll talk about the deadline, but I'm going to try to do this in order here. Obviously, deadline day was Friday. A lot of trades actually came in before that, and we'll talk about that. But obviously, Monday, that's sort of the heartbreak game of the week, I'd say. The Astros jump out, playing in Seattle. Feels like the first time we've played in Seattle in a long time, since maybe early in the year. But the Astros score 6 runs in the top half of the first. Let me double check that. But they get off to a good start. You got Luis Garcia going. You're thinking, Luis Garcia has been so good this year, and you just spotted him 6 runs in the top half of the first. What could go wrong, right? So early on in the game, I was just sort of sailing along. Felt good. But yeah, you had the 6-run cushion right out of the gate. And Garcia actually got through the first 3 innings, no problem. And the Astros added a run in the 4th. But this is when things started to fall as, Garcia gave up a big bases clearing double, which made it 7-3. The Astros add another run there in the 5th. Then Garcia gives up the 3-run shot to Seager, and now it's 8-6. So what was, an easy breeze-by win now has turned into a close game. And the issue that comes with the Astros and the bullpen with, when starters can't get deep into ball games, as Garcia couldn't get out of the 5th, and now you got to turn to the bullpen, which is just a total incomplete mess. So, yeah. You have the 2-run lead. You're thankful for that, but obviously unless you're up 4 or 5 runs, if your offense goes out there and scores 8, 9 runs in the first however many innings before your starter gets knocked out, maybe you feel okay. But 2 runs for this bullpen, the way it's constructed on Monday, yeah, it's not going to end well. And sure enough, if they've done what they've done basically all year, you bring in Bryan Abreu. We know how I feel about him. He gives up an earned run, no surprise there. Also strikes out 2 batters, but walked a guy. Big issue for the Astros bullpen is they walk guys. Then when they need to get big outs, they can't do it. So Abreu comes in, gives up his run as usual. He actually pitched, so Garcia got through 4 2/3. So Abreu got the final out in that 5th inning, and then he comes out. I believe he gave up a run in the 6th. I want to say, if I'm correct there. Yeah, he gave up his run. He usually does that, but Abreu doesn't usually go out there and get actually absolutely hammered, like we'll talk about here in a few seconds. But he does go out there, and he gives up his earned run basically every single outing, which in close games isn't good. So Abreu comes in, gives up his run that he usually gives up each and every outing he's out there. They take him out with 2 outs in the 6th. They bring in Blake Taylor. The lone bright spot in the bullpen was Blake Taylor, who actually got through an inning and a 3rd, but hitless, scoreless, 2 strikeouts. Blake Taylor, ERA at 3.33. We'll also talk about him here in a little bit because he can't sustain his. I can't even finish this. He can't sustain his. I can't find the word there. So, but Blake Taylor can't sustain any decent pitching for any extended period of time. That's the best way I can actually put that into words there. But the lone bright spot. So you're up 8-7 now at this point, as after Abreu gives up his run here. So now we're hanging on for dear life, and you got to find a way to get basically 9 outs. I think that's what you're looking at. Not even 9 outs. You need 6 outs. You got to find a way to get 6 outs with your bullpen. Now, obviously, you feel good with Preston in the 9th. The question is, how do you get there? And, Dusty's going to roll with Ryan Stanek here in the 8th. I don't have a problem with that, to be honest with you. Ryan Stanek, teams that have good bullpens, or at least decent bullpens, Stanek wouldn't be an 8th inning guy, but the Astros don't have a decent or good or even decent bullpen. So Stanek, a guy that was very good first month and a half of the year, obviously has not been, he can't get on track. He'll have some scoreless outings, but he's really back and forth. He can never put together 3 or 4 good outings. But as our relievers stand on Monday, and we're going to talk about the trades here in a second, but in that situation, Stanek's the right guy to use. Here's the mistake. I actually want to go batter by batter here because I think it's important to point this out. So I'm going to try to find this, so bear with me here. Because I have to scroll all the way down to the 8th inning here. Let's see here. So, bottom half of the 8th. So Stanek comes in after Blake Taylor gets through his scoreless 7th. Up a run now, 8-7. Ty France singles. Cal Raleigh strikes out, looking. So 1 out, 1 on. Mound visit. So I guess that was Brent Strom going out talking to. Usually Brent Strom will go out there mid-inning if it says a pinch. I don't know if Luis Torrens was a pinch hitter or not, but usually Brent will go out there to talk to the pitcher for a scouting report if there's a pinch hitter. So, but yeah, mound visit there. Then we get a fielder's choice. So Luis Torrens grounds out. They do advance the runner to second, so you got 2 outs, runner on second. Then Jared Klinick, who was 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, walks. That's the big issue. You can't be walking guys. Obviously the base was open, but you can't be walking guys. So then, here's the big issue. Dusty Baker decides to go out and pull Ryan Stanek, and you're going to bring in Brooks Raley, who hasn't pitched in over a month, I want to say. He's been on the IL for a pretty long time. And you're going to Brooks Raley here in a one-run game with 2 runners on in the 8th inning. There's so much wrong in that sentence right there. Brooks Raley, tight game, 8th inning, 2 runners on. Brooks Raley. Yeah, that's always a recipe for disaster just waiting to happen. You want to use Brooks Raley, that's fine, but first game off the IL, and you're going to put him in this situation? When you had Stanek out there, who obviously is not locked down by any means, but Ryan Stanek does get outs occasionally. He's the best option you got. You have to stick with, I don't care who's coming up. This whole lefty-on-lefty BS I'm sick and tired of hearing, of why we have to play these stupid matchups. I don't get it. And sure enough, there was a left-hander coming up. So, if you're smart, usually the opposing manager is like, all right, I'm at the bottom of the order. I'll pinch hit and set up the matchup my way. Dusty has to think about these things. Think about it. It's not that hard. And what does Brooks Raley do? He comes in, he walks a guy, so now you load the bases. Dylan Moore comes up. He's also a pinch hitter. And he hits a grand slam. And like that, it's 11-8. And Brooks Raley once again proves how bad he is and how he has no business being on our roster, really on any roster in all of baseball. Let a terrible team take him off our hands. The Astros go down 1-2-3 in the 9th inning. And after being up 7-0, you lose this game 11-8. So that's my long version of every game I'll talk about this week, right there. Because I'm not going to go deep into talk, but trade deadline's on Friday, and that's a perfect example of what's wrong with this baseball team right now. Blowing leads, getting into tight games in late innings, not being able to win tight games, something you can't be doing come playoff time. So, yes, James Click had to be watching, and sure enough, he took care of it right away. Sometimes, next day when I was just sitting at the house, I was actually playing MLB The Show. I was thinking to myself, I was listening to the radio, but I was thinking to myself, I was like, all right, so let's see here. I would not expect James Click to make a move just based on last night. Obviously, the deadline's coming up. Obviously, the Astros need bullpen help, but I don't expect him to make a quick move to just, it's coming. It's coming, okay? But sure enough, the move was made. I mean, they basically stole Kendall Graveman from the Mariners. This is Jeff Luhnow-esque trade right here, bringing over Kendall Graveman. And Rafael Montero, didn't know much about really either. We knew Graveman pitched for the A's. He actually was the only thing I really knew about Graveman, obviously out of the bullpen now. But Kendall Graveman, he's been one of the, if you just go based on numbers, he's probably the best closer reliever of anybody from any team all year. I don't even know if he made the All-Star team, but his numbers are just insane this year, in a good way, obviously. I don't know much about Montero, but you gave up Joe Smith, who was a contract that was well overpaid for a guy who hasn't done anything at all this entire year. He's been terrible. He's been injured a few times or once or whatever it was, but his ERA's at like 7. I mean, I would have dropped. They would have DFA'd him if you didn't trade him. DFA, that gives you like a 7-day, like a week to trade him, or just let him clear waivers or whatever the case is there. But you give him up, and Abraham Toro, who's going to lose playing time regardless because you have Lemnis Diaz who got activated on Monday, so he's going to cut into his playing time. And you have Bregman, who's about a week or two away. So Toro, guy I'm not very fond of anyway. But good for Toro to go to the Mariners, where he actually will get more playing time and have a chance to actually show what he's made of. I don't think he's not a Major League Baseball player. I don't think he can consistently hit Major League pitching. Got some pop in his bat. He hasn't been terrible since they've called him up, but he's just out of luck with us. I don't really like him as a baseball player, and I don't see any value for him. He won't get playing time. When Bregman comes back, as long as we stay healthy, God forbid, but God forbid anybody gets hurt, obviously, but I mean, you got Bregman at third and you got Correa at short. And if any of them get hurt or they need a day off, Diaz slides in, and I'm completely okay with that. So that's where we are there. That was the trade after Tuesday afternoon, going into the evening. But the Astros, making a move. Kendall Graveman, obviously the big guy there, to really help the back end of the bullpen. So I give James Click a lot of credit for being able to pull that off. The Mariners, Jerry Dipoto, their GM, took a lot of backlash. The players weren't happy because Seattle, battling for a playoff spot, had feeling good about themselves. Just big comeback win when you were down 7 runs, and they felt like they had this momentum, and to take away their closer, that was, his numbers are just insane. And I'll get to those in a minute here, but the players, that did not sit well with the clubhouse. So, but that credit to James Click to pull that off there. So we'd roll into Tuesday. The Astros get the 2 wins here to actually take the series. Good. Won't really get into the wins a whole lot here. 8-6. They actually led this game big at one point. These 3 runs in the first. Of course, they gave up 2. McCullers gets the win. Wasn't fantastic as I look at the box score here. Let's see. They go 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs. So not great, but when the Astros scores you, and the Astros put up, 8 runs in the first 5 innings, you better win that game, which they did. Blake Taylor came in, another scoreless inning for him. Stanek came in, scoreless inning for him. Presley gave up 3 runs. We were actually, gave up 2 runs. We were leading by 4 at the time. That the Mariners actually brought up the winning run to the plate, but Presley was able to settle down and get through that inning. But Presley giving up a run the prior Saturday, I want to say, to Texas, solo home run in a 4-run game. I don't know why Dusty uses him. I don't really blame Dusty for using or Ryan Presley in a 4-run game, considering some of the other issues or mistakes he makes. Which, But yeah, I mean, we still won the game 8-6. Wasn't pretty, but just needed to get that bad taste out of your mouth after what happened on Monday. But Dusty's made his fair share of mistakes, and there's no question about that. I think anybody that watches the Astros, that's a diehard or just a fan that knows the team well. Dusty's made his fair share of mistakes. Here's the problem, though. I'm trying to go easy on Dusty because if it's not Presley, some combination of Stanek and close games, it's really, who do you turn to? You're drawing names out of a hat. I mean, he made the mistake of taking Stanek out to go to Brooks Raley. Obviously on Monday, that was the big mistake. But again, if he doesn't have a lot to work with in the bullpen, so while even Dusty Baker, AJ Hinch had a number of different options in the bullpen, and he'd always go to Hector Rondon for God knows what reason. And, I mean, AJ Hinch would throw away games, and it was just sickening to watch. That's why I had a big issue with him. And we had to throw things out. Last year, 60 games. I didn't even get on Dusty at all last year. I mean, they went through like 15 different arms in the bullpen with all the injuries and the taxi squad and the expanded rosters and everything that went into last year's weird, just not usual baseball season. But yeah, wanted to throw that out there. Just my quick take on Dusty and AJ. But they get the win there Tuesday, and then Wednesday they come out, they score 11 runs. So the offense is rolling right now, especially, I mean, they score 4 runs on Saturday against Texas, 3 on Sunday, but they go on the road and the bats come alive. It's weird how that works, but it feels like that's been the story of Astros baseball for the last number of years, where they mash on the road. In fact, play better baseball overall on the road, and then at home they're just sort of so-so. But single runs in the second, third, fourth, and fifth innings, and then they really open it up in the 6th inning with a 4-run 6. Jake Odorizzi, man, he was sailing along in this game. Jake Odorizzi was just sailing along. And then he gets to the 6th inning, and this is where he sort of implodes, giving up 3 earned runs. He gets the win, thankfully. But I feel like this has been the story of Jake Odorizzi. He usually he can retire 9-10 guys in a row, and then he'll get through a part of the lineup or whatever it is where he just struggles. I still think he's going to be valuable to this team rest of the year into the postseason. I think he'll be a very valuable piece. But of all ERAs of Astros pitchers, he's really struggled. So, but it's always one inning, I feel like, with Odorizzi. So, but he got the win, which moves his record to 4-5, 4.30 ERA. I have no idea what Dusty's thinking, but he goes right back to Brooks Raley. One thing I didn't mention in the game after he allowed that grand slam to Dylan Moore. So I'll backtrack here for just a second. Brooks Raley, J.P. Crawford's the next hitter, and he hits him on like the 4th or 5th pitch of the at bat. I think it's the 4th pitch. There are 2 pitches inside. But he hits him like in the head, basically. J.P. Crawford was all right. Scott Service had a big issue, was yelling at Raley and the entire Astros dugout, but it's always a red flag when you hit a guy right after a big home run like that. So the umpires got together to toss Brooks Raley, which whatever. I don't think Brooks Raley was intentionally trying to hit a guy. I just think his command. That grand slam really shook him up, and he just had no control of his pitches. But, I mean, that was the 3rd pitch that was inside. The 3rd one hit him. And he got suspended 3 games, which he's appealing. Brooks Raley has no business to be on this team. It's that plain and simple. I could go on and on. I don't want to sit here and harp on Brooks Raley, but he has no business pitching for us ever again. Ever again. I mean, you make the move and you get Kendall Graveman, you get Rafael Montero. Brooks Raley should be the first guy that goes. First guy out of here. See ya, thanks for coming. I don't think he has minor league options, so see ya, we'll cut you, we'll waive you, we'll DFA, whatever. Just get him off this team because he has no business pitching another inning. I don't care what the score is at this point because it's just a disaster with Brooks Raley. Whether it's lefties or righties, I hate the whole lefty on lefty. I just hate that whole whole analytical twist on left-handed relievers. You don't need them. I don't think they're important. A.J. Hinch didn't have a lefty for like a 2-year stretch, and it really didn't bother me one bit. And it should, like, if you have a good lefty, okay, that's fine. The Astros don't have one. Blake Taylor's no good. He's proving last year was a fluke. And Brooks Raley, we've harped on this all year. He's just a waste of time. He's a useless pitcher. In fact, he's not useless because he's worse than useless, because when he goes out there, he just makes the situation worse. So I don't want to go off on a rant. I really don't. I really, really don't. But, you know, I like the team. Talk about the hitters. Talk about the starters. That's usually good. Talk about the bullpen. That gets me all worked up, and, yeah, it sets me off. So I need to reel things back in and just try to calm myself down here for a few seconds. But, yeah, you get the win there, and then, yeah, you get the win there on Wednesday. And I won't get into the bullpen mess, but Brooks Raley comes in, and he walks 2 guys. Didn't give any runs. He got out of the inning, but, again, he walks. That's usually Brooks Raley his calling card. He'll come in, he'll walk a few guys, and he'll give up a home run. That's what he does. Blake Taylor's also very similar. He comes in, he walks guys as well. So, Blake Taylor's obviously not as bad. I don't cringe when he comes in to pitch, but I'll cringe every time Brooks Raley does. Javier came in. Javier's really struggled out of the bullpen lately. He can't throw strikes himself. Now, nobody is Enoli Paredes bad, but he walks 3 guys, gets 2 outs, gives up an earned run, a hit. He wasn't great. Javier, a guy that you sort of can rely on, whether it's him or Stanek. Usually, your guys you'd go to. But bringing in Graveman, and I don't know Montero, ERA over 7. He was actually DFA'd by Seattle for about a week or so. Now he's traded. When you DFA, like I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, but when you DFA a guy, designate for assignment, you get like a week or like 10 days to trade him, or he goes through waivers. So I guess that was a throw-in. And the Astros, I don't get this. So, I mean, I'm going to get into this in a minute here, but the move to activate basically Graveman and Montero, obviously Joe Smith goes, so that clears the roster spot there, but you designate Austin Pruitt for assignment. I don't get it. Like he had been hurt all of last year. He had been hurt most of this year. But you DFA Austin Pruitt, a guy who's made 2 outings out of the bullpen. Now, granted, he has given up home runs in both. One was a meaningless home run. The Astros were already down by 10 runs, so the home run there was meaningless. But the second one was a tie game, but he didn't really get a fair chance. And there's so many of the guys in that bullpen you could let go of that's not Austin Pruitt's not a problem. They just never gave him a chance, so they DFA him. The Astros expecting to make another move, obviously, with that DFA there. So, obviously, off day Thursday. Friday's the big anticipated day. And, yeah, on Thursday, the Astros made a move, I believe, to get Yimi Garcia, another reliever. He's actually a closer for the Marlins. I don't think he started the season as a closer, but he's a closer for the Marlins. ERA, mid-3s. He's got 15 saves. So, and you trade some prospect, not one of the guys high up, and, of course, Austin Pruitt. So, but adding depth to the bullpen, that's another good move. That's 3 arms you've actually added. So, James Click, I applaud him on that trade as well. So you're getting guys. You're getting to Friday. It almost felt like when Friday got here, all the top guys were moved. It seemed like it was a very active trade deadline. I can't go through everybody, but the biggest splash was probably the Dodgers. After the Padres looked like they were close to getting Scherzer, it ended up being the Dodgers who stepped in and got Scherzer and Trey Turner. So they probably, got the biggest names out there. Scherzer was the big starter, ace guy out there, and the Dodgers have good pitching. I mean, I know they lost Bauer to the whole I won't get in. Bauer's obviously on the commissioner's exempt list right now, so they bring in Scherzer to shore up an already good rotation, and Trey Turner. You got Corey Seager who's going to be a free agent after the year, and they're probably going to let him walk without even caring if they're going to have Trey Turner. So I don't know the contract situation with Turner, but I think he's under control for another year at least. So we'll wait and see there. But yeah, that was the big splashy Astros getting 3 arms. I wasn't expecting them to do a whole lot on Friday. Obviously, I was glued to the TV, MLB Network, switching it back, ESPN. I was updating Twitter constantly. But the Astros, weren't really involved. I'm sure that, James Click was making calls here and there, seeing what was out there, what was available, what he could get. Nothing really was going anywhere until, like 10 minutes before the deadline. I don't get this trade, but Myles Straw gets traded to the Indians. And you're expecting, at this point, they bring in they could get a reliever. What's his name? Phil Maton. Maton. I don't know how to say his last name quite yet. I think the Todd Callis and Jeff Blum said Maton or Maton. Maton. I don't know. Maton. So however you want to pronounce that. I thought it was just Maton, but Maton. I'm gonna go with Maton. I think that sounds right. Maton. Phil Maton. ERA in the mid-4s, so he's not lighting things up. And you give up Myles Straw, your starting center fielder, who obviously got off to a bad start this year, but had constantly been raising his average. After the trade was made, we're thinking Byron Buxton, who was a guy that was supposed to be traded. We were thinking that deal was about to go down, that James Click had something in the works, but he did not. Just wanted that reliever. A reliever with an ERA in the mid-4s, got good stuff. You know how I feel about using that cliche term, the good stuff, because by that logic, Brian Abreu's got good stuff, right? Josh James has got good stuff, and they're useless pitchers. But yeah, Phil Maton, yeah, comes over, and then the Astros call up. We're waiting because the deals will actually trickle in after the deadline. We were waiting for the Byron Buxton deal. I'm not high on Buxton. Guy who can't stay healthy. I think overall he's been an underachievement as a number 1 overall pick or number 2. He was in the same draft class as Carlos Correa, obviously, but yeah, it wasn't huge on him. But you're gonna roll with Chas McCormick now, a guy who he's got some pop in his bat the rare times he makes contact, but he just strikes out way too much. Like, Myles Straw is a better player than Chas McCormick is. McCormick as a 4th outfielder, I like, not as an everyday guy. So we'll see how things work out. But he's got some major adjustments to make on his swing. Too big of an uppercut. Every time he strikes out, usually doesn't strike out looking. He usually goes down swinging. And every time he swings and misses on the 3rd strike, you can just see it in the swing. Dude, it's like Kyle Tucker, because he can be aggravating as he is. But Chas McCormick, dude, cut down the swing a little bit. You don't have to hit home runs. We got enough of those guys in our lineup. Just make contact, try to run well, and I don't know. He's got some work to do. He might be in that Kyle Tucker category, which will aggravate me to no end. But he's going to get a chance, and I'm not going to dog on him yet. That was not, as a head-scratcher sort of trade for me at that point in time. It just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. You got your 3 relievers. You can never have too many, obviously. And if Maton turns out to be a great reliever in key spots, then I can understand the trade. We'll wait and see. But until and if McCormick ends up playing as good or just as good as Straw, then the trade makes sense. But it on paper, as I look at it right now, I don't know why you take out a starter right now. That's actually hitting not terribly. He's 260, 270. I'm gonna take that every day, 7 days a week with Myles Straw. So there was that. I'll look for my water here. There were other moves. Obviously, as I mentioned, when we got to Friday, I was like, all these guys have been traded. This might be a pretty boring deadline. I was way off as everybody got traded, basically. So, talked about the big one, the Scherzer, Trey Turner, obviously, to the Dodgers. The Yankees got Joey Gallo, who's not a big impact, but did get Anthony Rizzo as well. That's a bigger impact. So, Rizzo, who's come over and been great for the Yankees. Chris Bryant to the Giants. That was the last second at 3 o'clock. Only move really the Giants made. Javier Baez to the Mets. But the Cubs and the Nationals are the two teams that just cleaned house, basically. Just dumped the entire team. Trying to think here. Schwarber went to the Red Sox. Obviously Turner. Trey Turner, Max Scherzer left the Nationals to go to the Dodgers. We just pointed out. Trying to think who else they lost. They lost Brad Hand. Brad Hand went to, can't even think about it right now, but he got moved. But yeah, I'm trying to think. But both those teams, Cubs really just unloaded everything. But yeah, Chris Bryant obviously, but Craig Kimbrell to the White Sox was also a big one. And I'm probably leaving out a few more here and there. I can't think off the top of my head. I was going to have a list that I was just going to go down, but there's just too many. That's going to take up too much time. But that was a weird one for me. I mean, obviously, any team can use bullpen help, but you have Liam Hendricks as your closer. You're bringing over Craig Kimbrell. That's a scary team with their starting rotation. And now, I mean, Hendricks and Kimbrell and Kopech in that bullpen, I mean, that's a scary matchup, I think, for anybody come playoff time there. But the Astros, interesting series, obviously going to San Francisco. They win the first game. Altuve had 2 big home runs, obviously a grand slam. That sort of rode them to victory. Framber gets the start, and we've been watching Framber a little bit closely here, so we'll just jump into Friday here. We're on Friday anyway. But Altuve had the big 2 home runs. The grand slam, the 6th, opened it up 7-2. So Framber only giving up 2 runs, which isn't bad. Only got through 5 innings through a high 89 pitches, so they didn't really overwork him. But the walks, he walked 3 more guys, and he was laboring through some innings. So he gets the win. He's 7-2. But Framber's a guy that's 4 or 5 straight starts where he just hasn't been the good Framber. It's pretty easy to distinguish between good Framber and bad Framber. He's good when he's getting ground balls and he's getting people to swing at his breaking ball, and he's striking guys out. That's good Framber. And then the bad one is the guy who walks a lot of guys and labors and gives up runs. But 3 walks, 5 innings isn't anything to write home about. But he did get the win, got through 5, 6 strikeouts, 3-point ERA over 3 at 3.01 now. So, but Framber Valdez is a guy that we need to keep an eye out on. Some of these starters, it's been one thing we haven't talked about a lot this year hasn't been our starters, because they've all been very, very, very good for us. Early in the year, not so much. They couldn't go deep. They fixed that issue. They went deeper. I mean, the team's 22 games over 500. You can't be too upset. But, those are the little things. The rotation now has some serious question marks, and we're still waiting on Jose Urquidy. You haven't heard an update in weeks on Urquidy, so what was supposed to be a minor injury looks more serious than I guess we initially thought. Blake Taylor comes in the 6th. He gives up his run. Yeah, that's Blake Taylor's back. Blake Taylor and Brian Abreu are very similar, and they give up their earned run per outing almost every time out there. So 2 hits, an earned run, struck out a guy. ERA's not terrible, 3.42, but still, Blake Taylor's not a guy you rely on. Stanek comes in. He gives up 2 runs. They were unearned. It's the first game where you don't have you took Myles Straw off the team. Chaz McCormick, I guess, can play center field, but Myles Straw's a better defender. You have Yordas out. This was a weird alignment in the outfield, too. You have Yordan Alvarez out in left. You're playing in San Francisco, remind you here. Big left field. If you're smart, you put Yordan in right. Now, it's a different area of the field, so maybe it screws with him a little mentally. But it's a less ground to cover in right field. You put Brantley in right. Brantley's used to playing left, but you put Jordan on the left. You put Brantley in right. You put Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker's not a center fielder. He's not a good defender. It's just that simple. He's got an okay arm, I guess, but it's not like he can go and run down balls like Myles Straw could. So, but there was a misplay where there's a fly ball, right center field. Brantley and Straw. I wish it was Straw, but Brantley and Tucker sort of come close together. I think Tucker was calling it, so Brantley stops basically, and Tucker was like scared just to move to his left. And he tried to catch the ball like a basket catch, where he like extended the arm. Of course, the ball dropped. That led to 2 runs. And plain and simple, case in point, why we don't trade Myles Straw, because that just looked ugly. And let's not forget, Kyle Tucker's also a guy that missed an easy home run he should have robbed at the wall, at the fence. I mean, it was one of the most casual home run robberies a player will ever have, and he completely just botched it, where the ball hit like 3/4 of his glove and he just couldn't catch it in Seattle. He's not a good defender. Put him in the left, put him in right. He's fine there. He's not a center fielder. So yeah, you got dilemmas to make. You're going to use Chas McCormick a lot. They brought up Jake Myers, obviously. We'll see what we got there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the center field configuration works out the rest of the year as we continue here. So yeah, Stanek gives up the 2 runs. They were unearned. Walked a guy. Wasn't great. ERA a little over 4 now. Graveman was great. Comes in that 7th inning to get the final out on a ground ball and strikes out the side in the 8th. So Graveman at a .79 ERA. His numbers are just sick right now, man. I'm trying to look at his ERA. Can't be that high. I just said his ERA, right? .7. I'm looking at Presley. That's the issue here. Graveman. Click on him. Listen to these numbers. 4-0 this year. He's been a reliever. .79 ERA. 37 strikeouts in 34 and a third innings. .67 whip. Dude, this guy, we stole him. That was a steal. But yeah, Presley comes in again, gives up a run, but we get the win. He gets out of it. But Presley moves the ERA over 2 now. 3 hits, a run, earned run. Things were looking not good there. Excuse me. Things were not looking good for Presley there, but he did get through it and got out of it. So, again, brought him in with the 4-run lead. I believe that was a 4-run lead. Let me double check that. Yeah, I believe it was 9-5. Yeah, I don't necessarily... The 4-run leads you brought him into, he's giving up runs 3 or 4 games. So, gave up the home run to Texas, gave up 2 runs to Seattle. That was actually an Abraham Toro home run he gave up, I believe. That was also what I just mentioned, the Kyle Tucker most casual home run robbery you'll ever have that he completely botched. But that was a Toro home run, and then the game on Friday. So Presley a little shaky now on paternity leave. Hopefully he'll be back tomorrow, because we'll definitely need him playing the Dodgers. But yeah, everybody's activated now. The moves they made. James Click, I give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do at the deadline, but I think about things here. I think about, like I said, Brooks Raley should have been the first one gone. The fact that he remains on this bullpen is just, it's a travesty. That's the nicest word I can use, but the moves that were made here, Brandon Bielak got option to AAA. So did Brian Abreu. I don't have an issue with either one. Obviously, Abreu would be probably second on my list of guys to send down. Abreu was brought back up as Presley went on paternity, so I don't know how long. Brian Presley just had a baby. His wife was in labor, so he just made it in time. But the baby was born Saturday, I want to say, maybe. So he might be back on Tuesday. He might be back tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure on that quite yet. But yeah, those are the 2 big arms. Obviously, Joe Smith left. Pruitt was DFA'd. and then Belak and Abreu were the odd guys out. So you keep, the bullpen's better. Yimi Garcia, who came in on Saturday, which we'll get to in a minute, gave up a home run. First batter he faced, but other than that, he was good. But Graveman really came as advertised on Friday. I won't go deep into these games. They lose on Saturday and Sunday. 8-6. Saturday game was back and forth. Javier blew it, so Javier, hasn't been good the last handful of outings, but Javier again struggled. Struck out 4, didn't walk anybody, but gave up 3 hits. But he struck out all the outs were all strikeouts, so obviously Javier can do that, but he can also struggle, and he gave up 3 hits. Maton came in, had a scoreless inning where he struck out all of his hitters, gave up a hit, also hit a batter. But Greinke was really the story in this game. Was not good at all. 4 innings, 8 hits, 6 runs, 4 of them earned. But Greinke's another guy. So you start looking at the rotation. Garcia hasn't been good. Fromber is not good. Greinke's not good. So, something we haven't dealt with all year now is the starting rotation. That's an issue. You got a lot of players you're looking at that need to bounce back here. So, and then Yimi Garcia got the 8th inning, gave up that home run, but struck out a guy, and other than that was good. So, and then on Sunday we lose again. Saturday was a game we probably should have won. We were up early. It was back and forth, but we were up 3-1. We came within a run, just could never really. Blake Taylor gets credit with the loss there, but Greinke's ERA up to 3.65, gave up 4 home runs. 4 home runs. That was terrible. Greinke was not good. Plain and simple there. It's a story of the game, and just not being able to. He scored 6 runs. That's usually good enough, but I think the story of that game is Greinke just wasn't good. And then losing yesterday as Luis Garcia once again was not good, as he gave up 5 earned runs. That's back-to-back starts for Luis Garcia. 4 2/3, 5 earned runs gets the loss. So I think the last 2 games, the offense only scored 3 runs on Sunday, so obviously they take some culpability there, but that's 2 straight starts for Garcia where he just hasn't been good. I know they're trying to limit his pitch count, his innings, as he's getting up there. If you want to take him out of the rotation, I think you'd wait for Urquidy to come back, then you might take Garcia out of the rotation. Maybe move him to the bullpen and bring up Urquidy and put him in the rotation. You got options with 7 guys. Javier can make a few spot starts if you needed him to. But I think they're trying to be very careful with Luis Garcia, but his last 2 outings as a starter have not been very good. Montero got in on Sunday, got 4 outs, strikeout, gave up a hit, but other than that was good. So Maton got another solid inning, gave up a hit, but was solid. And the bullpen didn't give up any runs. It was all Garcia, but the 5 runs was enough. Trying to see here, scored our runs. So Gurriel had a big 2-run home run in the first, so he had an early lead there. So had leads in both these games, just couldn't stop San Fran. They're a good team, But those are the 2 big runs. Gurriel there, after Diaz had 3 home runs there in 2 games. So I got an update there, but so that's the way I sort of look at things. We're coming up on 45 minutes. I expected this podcast to be long here. But as I look at things, bullpen's better, obviously. I think the starters for the first time all year now, there's a big question mark. Urquidy can't come back fast enough, but again, I have no update on Jose Urquidy at this point. And then, we'll see, McCullers didn't have a great start his last outing either. Gave 4 runs. And we'll have McCullers and Odorizzi. Day off today. We'll play the Dodgers tomorrow. And you'll have Walker Buehler against Lance McCullers, and then Wednesday you'll have Jake Odorizzi, and then Max Scherzer makes his debut. So tough pitching matchups, no question about it. Astros got to find a way. I mean, you got a good offense, right? Let's see it show up here. Find a way. These starters got to be better. We'll see with McCullers and Urquidy, but when it comes back around to Greinke and Garcia, those are guys that need to pitch better. So bounce back. Offense cooled off the last 2 days, but trying to think here. Brantley, a little banged up. X-rays. He can't go in the IL. Can't afford that. Bregman got pulled from a rehab start with hamstring tightness, so it'll be delayed even more. But we need to get this lineup back where it's 1 through 7. 1 through 7 where it's just great. And don't get me started with Martin Maldonado, who's just golly. But Castro's last. I'll give Chandler Rome credit on this. He tweeted out Castro's last 13 at bats, 0 for 13 with 11 strikeouts. So Castro, even himself, has not been good. So, but just get me more team. Just please get me just a 200. All I'm asking for is 200. Chirinos could at least hit 230. I never liked Robinson Chirinos very much, but I mean, Martin, just please, just don't make it abysmal every single time. And then, whoever else you got, getting Diaz back's a nice boost. So, you're not losing a ton. Bregman obviously is a great hitter. Hadn't done anything at the minor league level, and I heard he's back in the lineup tonight, so that's a good thing for Bregman. But hopefully, he needs maybe 3-4 more games. We can get him back sometime, maybe for the Minnesota series, which we'll play with 4 back at home after LA here. But if you can split the series, they play 6 games. I'm looking for 4 and 2. So if you can split the series with the Dodgers, I'd probably take that. And then you're looking for 3 or 4 against the Twinkies at Minute Maid Park. So I'm trying to think here. Covered a lot, as far as the trade deadline goes. But my overall assessment on James Click, like the moves he made, that was very good. They actually stayed under the luxury tax. Another thing that I guess is good, they went over, not a huge penalty. Can't even tell you what the penalty actually is if you go over the luxury tax. I can just tell you that if they had a deal where they liked that would put them over the luxury tax, I'm sure they would have taken it. But James Click definitely keep that in mind. In fact, I think he saved money because moving Joe Smith, who was making a few $1 million, actually saved them. I think they actually, adding the additions to the bullpen, you actually saved some of your pay. You saved money basically. I don't know what they're paying Myles Straw, Maton. It's probably about a wash. But that first deal with Graveman and Montero, you stole them and you gave up 2 irrelevant players. So that was the big win. We'll see what Garcia can bring us here. Montero looked good, just his first outing, small sample sizes. As I talk next Sunday night, which will most likely be the time I speak to you again, although they do have off days on Monday and Thursday the following week, so depending on how my Sunday goes. But I'll plan to be here Sunday night again, obviously. And we'll get to see these guys hopefully at least 1 or 2 more times each of them. Hopefully they're still doing the thing here. They're still doing just fine. But the bullpen's better. I just can't stand to see Brooks Raley, and Dusty Baker has some weird obsession with him. Dusty's sometimes a hard guy to figure out, but dude, when Brooks Raley comes in, it's just, I can't find the adjective to use. It's a disaster waiting to happen. And the fact that he's a lefty, like if he, God, Did I lose you? Did I lose you guys here? Let's see. Alright, I'm back. I didn't even realize. I closed my eyes, put my hand over my eyes, and the screen was black when I opened it back up. So, anyway, hopefully we'll see what happens there. But, we'll wrap things up. Obviously, 4-2. The Astros still, quick standings update for you. The Astros got the lead up to 6 in the division. And then went big down to, it's 4.5 now, as Oakland won their last 2 games, I want to say. The last game. 4.5 lead. Seattle's 8 back, so you're good there. You're still in good shape overall, tied with Tampa Bay for the best record in the AL at 64 and 42. So just continue to try to get better. The goal's 100 wins, so we'll 36 and 18. No, 36 and 20. We'll put them exactly at 100. Oh, that's a doable 36 and 20. It's doable. Better bullpen. Offense comes back, stays healthy. Starters can figure out to be good enough. I think it's a very doable thing to get to 100 wins this year. So, be the goal, obviously, but yeah, Tampa Bay, they added, Nelson Cruz, and that was their big move, obviously, and they've won 4 in a row and overtook Boston. Boston's lost 4 in a row. So they've dropped a game and a half back at Tampa Bay. So Tampa looks like the big competition at this point. And of course, you can't ever rule out the White Sox. But the White Sox are 4 and 6 in their last 10. So, but their bullpen and their starters are great, and they're getting healthier on the offensive side with Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert coming back. So. But yeah, hopefully good news on the injury front. Hopefully Brantley can be back in the lineup tomorrow. Hopefully Presley's back and Bregman's back within the week. If that all, can happen. And, starters, they'll definitely eyes open big for people like Garcia and Greinke and, Fromber when we see them next. So hopefully at least 2 of those 3 can bounce back. But yeah, we'll see things. And the bullpen continues to pitch well. Something I haven't been able to say all year, but hopefully they can. Yeah, it's small sample size, so I can't get overly optimistic on any of these guys. I think Graveman's probably gonna be your best bet as an 8th inning, even close if we need him to, time and time here and there. But Maton and Montero and Garcia, we'll see what we can get there. Hopefully they can all be a boost. But I like the moves that James Click the moves that James Click made, but I don't like the easy part was taking out your bad relievers and putting in the good ones, and you left the worst reliever actually on the roster, which just blows my mind away. But I don't make these decisions. I know I could make them better, but I'm not gonna. We'll see how things work out. Anyway, I've come out with 53 minutes. My voice is starting to go, so I'll wrap things up there. We'll look forward to next Sunday night. Most likely the case. I'll plan for that. So look for me Sunday night, if not Monday morning. But again, love to hear your thoughts on the trade deadline. Comment section below. Anything you have to add, anything I missed, anything you don't agree with, I'd love to hear it in the comment section below. So do all that good stuff you can do on YouTube, and I'll see you in about a week, maybe a little bit less.